All right. Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from OntheHop Podcast. Today, this will be episode 243 for you guys today, and I'm joined by a special guest. First time that me and Joey are collaborating. He's the host of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. Joey Monroe is joining me today to talk about football and whatnot. But Joey, I'm a fan of your content, and I'm very happy that you are here today to discuss sports with me on the Hop Podcast.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited to get started. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on your show on the Hop. I've, seen some of your content on social media. I love it. I see that you're a Cowboys fan as well. I'm a
Yeah.
Patriots fan. Two of the biggest brands in football, two of the biggest historic franchises. Thankful to Tom Brady. Hopefully Drake May can continue that up there. But I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Definitely it's going to be a fun episode. So we can get started with what happened in divisional round weekend. We'll start off with the first game with the Denver Broncos defeating the Buffalo Bills by a score of 33-30 in overtime. So, Joey, what's your thoughts on that Buffalo Bills and Broncos game?
Yeah, well, I got a chance to watch that game, and you can take this game so many different ways. The Bills lost the game because of Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills couldn't stop the Broncos offense. There's so many different ways that you can take this game. But for me, my biggest takeaways, of course, were Josh Allen's turnovers. I was a big advocate. I was vouching for Josh Allen on my podcast last week, talking to people saying, Josh Allen is Superman. He's going to have to do everything it takes in this game for the Bills to win this game.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, you saw the turnovers that he had, the controversial interception. We can talk about that as well. Was it an interception by Jaquan McMillan? Was it a catch by Brandon Cooks? But I'm a strong believer, Thomas, that it never comes down to one play. There's way too many different things that happen in that game. And my biggest thing from that game was is the first half of the game when the Bills were down by 10 points. And it comes back to Josh Allen. Also, the James Cook fumble in the first quarter there. A heck of a play by Alex Singleton, who punched the ball out. So, those are really my biggest takeaways from that game. I The Broncos defense concerned me a little bit. They didn't look like the Broncos defense that it has in previous weeks, of course, in the regular season. And then you can turn around and say, well, it's Josh Allen. But that's really my biggest takeaways from that game. And obviously, of course, we saw Bo Nix get hurt. That was really, really tough to see. You never want to see a player like that go out. Fractured his ankle and a really fluky play. So those are really some of my takeaways from that game.
Yeah, and I agree with you about it doesn't come down to the last player, the officiating. It comes down to how you play for all four, and in this scenario, 5 quarters. Because Josh Allen did have 4 total turnovers in this game. And anytime you turn over the football, it hurts your team. And Joey, to your point, Josh Allen had to be Superman against this really good Denver Broncos defense. And he really wasn't the Superman that a lot of people could have thought he could have been for this game. Because they cashed in at least 10 or more points off the turnovers in this scenario. But it was a lot of momentum swings in this game. I thought the Broncos in the third quarter not kicking the 57-yard field goal, rather punting the ball, was a mistake by Sean Payton and company. The Bills capitalized, scored 7 points. But then down the line, like I seen Josh Allen was an X factor with his legs. To your point, the Denver Broncos defense didn't look as advertised in this game because Josh Allen did make plays with his arm and his legs, but the turnovers, it wasn't enough. And that's the story of Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. They can never capitalize in overtime scenarios. Josh Allen's 0-7 in overtime in his career, and the interceptions, the fumbles, they caught up to him. And especially that interception where Brandon Cooks, a lot of people thought he came with the interception, but the reception, but and when an interception away for the Broncos, that was the nail that was put in the coffin because two crucial or three crucial plays later where flags were thrown on the Buffalo Bills for the roughing the passer, pass interference twice. That was it, and the Bills could not capitalize on an opportunity that presented itself if they just do their job and finish in the fifth quarter in overtime. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Tough loss for the Bills, but it came down to the turnovers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, my biggest thing from that game as well, of course, was the interception from Jaquan McMillan. Did Brandon Cooks catch it? I personally thought that Brandon Cooks caught that ball, and a lot of people on social media were very, up in arms, and they had different opinions about that. And I would love to hear what you would have to say about that as well. And my biggest thing too, Thomas, was the referees didn't even review that play. I understand that it's in overtime, but you can't go up to the booth and review that. Like one of the most controversial calls we've seen in a really long time. and you don't
Mm.
review that call. So if you go back and watch that, I watched that play back about 20 to 25 times this morning, sitting there looking and trying to figure out, did Brandon Cooks maintain full possession of that ball? Because if he did maintain full possession of that ball, the tie goes to the receiver. So I
Yes.
just still don't understand. It's one of those things where it's like, why did the Seattle Seahawks throw the ball on the 1 yard then against the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl with Malcolm Butler with that play there? Like some things you'll just never understand why the refs didn't review that. So that's kind of really how I felt about that, and it's definitely something that we'll always go back and talk about. I feel like it's a constant cycle with the Bills. It's some sort of play, the refs. There were some ticky-tacky calls, of course, in the end of the game there in the fourth quarter, as well as overtime. Tre'Davious White, Taron Johnson, the pass interference, the holdings. So, but that's the nature of playoff football, you know?
Yeah, and I agree because I'm one of those people too. I do agree with you. I'm one of those people that could have swore that should have been a catch by Brandon Cooks, and they go down the
Yeah,
field and possibly win the game because, like you said, the tie should go to the runner. And in my opinion, it looked like Brandon Cooks was already down before the DB got on top of him and stripped the ball away. Then they call an interception.
yeah,
I thought that was a catch because in a similar scenario with the Devontae Adams catch when the Rams and the Bears game, a lot of people were thinking, would that possibly not be a catch? But it's something similar to that. I was thinking, and your point too, they should have went to the booth, reviewed this more because that's a crucial play. Because if the Bills turn over the football like they did in that scenario, next four wins, the Broncos go down the field and have the game-winning drive after that. That's a crucial play that you might want to review just in case for any team. So I thought that was a crucial mistake. And then to your point too, like all game long, even for the Bills and the Broncos, I thought all game long there could have been some calls that were called on either side, but the referees were letting the players play. And unfortunately, in overtime, you see that's where the officiating and the flags come into play in
yeah.
overtime. I feel like if you're going to call those, then throughout the whole entire game, you should have called some tick for tack flags that could have went the Bills' way or the Broncos' way. I feel like officiating didn't really settle the outcome or wasn't really a real reason of the outcome, but it did play a factor, especially in the final moments of overtime.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and just to add on to that too, I thought Bo Nix played a really good game. I really thought he silenced the doubters. I still think Drake May is better than Bo Nix. That's a whole nother conversation. But he made a heck of a throw to Marvin Mims at the end of the game there. He dropped it right in the bucket. He had the touchdown to Lil Jordan Humphrey in the first half. So Bo
Yeah.
Nix silenced the doubters in a game like that. But it is also a lot easier to win a playoff game like that when you're at home. You don't have to worry about any crowd advantage. He has the crowd advantage at him because, of course, they're home. So, and they have a great offensive line as well. So, but I did think Bo Nix played a great game. Obviously, minus the one interception that he threw. But sometimes Bo Nix can be boneheaded. But overall, I loved watching that game. Like I said, it sucks to see that Bo Nix is now not going to be able to play against the Patriots. It's not what I expected. It's not what I wanted to see. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, and that's one final thing we'll get in before we get into the next game.
Yeah,
It's so unfortunate because I want to say that happened to the third or the second to last play where the Joey Bosa hit Bo Nix with the rough in the passer, then he fractured his ankle, and then the news broke like an hour or so later that he would be unavailable for the remainder of the playoffs. That sucks because
crazy.
you get all the way there as the number one seed. You're one game away from the Super Bowl, and you don't even have your quarterback there. That honestly
No.
sucks.
No, but one thing I'll make a point about though, Thomas, is people are counting the Denver Broncos out, and I'm a strong believer. You never know what can happen in a one-game playoff set. Look what happened in the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles when he came in there and they dropped 41 points on us. You never know; anything can happen. It's a one-game playoff set. It's the very small sample size. Yes, Jared Stidham has not thrown a pass since 2023, but you never know; anything can happen. So I am not being cocky walking into that game. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's just. I honestly think that will be a good game, and we'll get into that game between the Patriots and the Broncos. But I want to know your thoughts on the
Yeah,
Saturday night game in the division round in the NFC between the Seahawks and the 49ers because they steamrolled the 49ers, win that game 41-6.
they took the belt off in Lumen Field and they gave them the absolute business. And you know what? Like I said, going back to the Broncos and the Bills game for this game, you can take this so many different ways. Sam Darnold wasn't fully healthy. They gave the keys to Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. The Niners are really banged up. Really, how can we really judge this Niners team off of that game? But Seattle looks like the most complete team in the NFL. Their defense is looks like just as good as the Texans and the Broncos. Sam Darnold has played really good all year long, even though he didn't really do much in this game. He didn't have to. They have the personnel on defense. They've got the playmakers on offense. So I watched a bit of this game, but I didn't sit there and study it like I did in the Bills and the Broncos game, just because it felt like it was over after that Rashid Shaheed opening kickoff. Like, I think all the momentum shifted from there, and I was like, oh, the Niners are going to be in for a very, very long night here in Lumen Field. They're banged up. How can you really judge this game? But I'm a strong believer, Thomas, that you play with the guys you have on the field. You're not going to sit there and do the what ifs. Kittle wasn't there. Pearsall, I don't think played. Fred Warner, of course, was out. Bosa. So, like, but we don't do that. You play with the guys you have.
Yeah, and I feel the same way of how this game between the Seahawks and the 49ers went, because it felt like after that opening kickoff, like he scored the touchdown with the fireworks smoke still in the background, which is
Yeah.
crazy. 12,
Yeah.
13 seconds into the game. But it just felt like the Seahawks like outclassed and outworked the 49ers at all three phases of the ball: offense, defense, and special teams. And to your point, they ran the ball very well with Sam Darnold not being 100%. Kenneth Walker scored 3 rushing touchdowns in this game, and Sam Darnold played mistake-free football. That was one of the reasons why a lot of people were concerned about the Seahawks, if he could possibly play mistake-free football or not. But the defense, their defense is insane. And Mike
Yeah.
Macdonald won that battle against Kyle Shanahan in the offensive versus defensive category by a landslide. And the defense only surrendered 6 points against this 49ers team. They held them to 6 for 12 on third down conversions, 0 and 3 on fourth down conversions. And they had the relentless pressure. They were getting after Brock Purdy. He was very uncomfortable in the pocket throwing the ball. They forced 3 total turnovers. For the 49ers, it does suck that they were I don't want to say a depleted team, but in reality, they were with all the injuries. But I agree with your point, too, next man up. And they've done that all year long without their 2 best defensive players. And George Kittle tore his Achilles in the Eagles game, but they still found a way to win that game in Philly. So you do feel bad for them, but at the same time, they already knew what they were rolling with. They just ran into a really bad matchup in their divisional rival in the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you made great points there. I totally agree with that. I really want to see how Seattle's going to play against this Rams team this weekend. They're going to be battle tested. Of course, they beat the Niners a few weeks ago in San Francisco. So this Seattle team has looked like one of the most complete teams in the NFL this year. Obviously, you saw what a month ago, I think it was, when the Rams and the Seahawks played one another, and the Seahawks came back against the Rams and they ended up winning that game. So I'm excited for that game, of course, this weekend. And I know we'll get into that. But yeah, really, I don't have like a whole lot to say about that from that Niners Seahawks game, because it was just utter domination, you know? So gonna be a long off season for Niners fans.
Yeah, definitely to let that one slide like that and the outcome.
Absolutely.
This your game right here, Joey. Your
Yep.
Patriots defeated the Houston
Yeah.
Texans by a score of 28-16. What's your thoughts on the Patriots going to the AFC Championship?
Yeah, well, if you would have told me earlier in this season, I would have said you're absolutely crazy, because of course everyone has been on their knees for the Chiefs. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills. But this Patriots team has been a force has been a force all season long. Everyone has been doubting this team because of the schedule and the schedule narrative, and they haven't played anybody that's good over 500. They only beat the Bills, they only beat the Bucks, and they everyone else they played weren't good. But when the playoffs come around, the New England Patriots turn into a different team. I feel like the gods from Foxborough and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady came down and blessed this team, because man, they have been great this postseason. And you know what? Sticking on this game here, yeah, Drake May he had 4 turnovers in this game, but people tend to forget it's Drake May's second playoff game going up against the best defense in the NFL. Go back to the week before when they played another top 10 defense in the Chargers. That's a tall task to go up against in your first 2 playoff games. So, my biggest things from this game were the Texans defense. They rushed the passer, of course, they really well against Drake May. They have the Patriots offensive line had a lot of problems. But the Patriots prevailed in the end. They proved why that they were the better team. They ran the ball effectively. Yeah, they turned the ball over. Drake May still had 3 touchdowns. Diggs, Douglas, and the other one was to Booty, which was a beautiful throw there. But it was just a magical day in Foxborough with the snow coming down, and it felt awesome to see them beat the Texans because all week I heard, Thomas, the Texans are going to come in here, they're going to dog walk the Patriots. Drake May is going to be on the ground every single play, and then I thought to myself, hold on a second, the Texans have to come to Foxborough and play in the snow, so.
Yeah.
That was my biggest. It's a tough place to play. January cold weather football. Mike Vrabel's done an exceptional job with this team all year long. We've been doubted all year. Now we're going to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, and before I get in the game, I want to say one thing because I remember right before the season started, I had the Patriots as one of my sleeper teams. Now, my prediction was that you guys would finish 9-8 or 10-7 to get one of the
Yep.
final wild card spots in the AFC to make the playoffs. I didn't think you guys would go 13-4 and win this division year
Yeah.
one with Mike Vrabel and Drake May, the two of them being together in Foxborough. This is honestly great to see. But yeah, this game between the Patriots and the Texans, like if you love defensive football and a
Hmm.
physical football game, like you said, Snow and Foxborough, there was a total of 8 total turnovers by both teams that they created, their defenses created. But the Patriots were the team that capitalized on the Houston Texans' mistakes, and they were the more physical team, able to score points off of a dangerous Houston Texans defense. And I agree with you, Joe. I think this was or I still think they're the best defense in the National Football League. The pass rush, the linebackers, the secondary, they have everything. But the reason why I picked the Patriots heading into this game was due to the fact that CJ Stroud did not sell to me, or show me, I should say. He did not show me that they could possibly win this game if the defense can't bail them out. And he showed that because he turned over the football 4 times. And even in that Steelers win, he didn't look good either. It was the Texans defense that bailed him out. And the week prior, your guys' pass rush sacked Justin Herbert 6 times and had a forced fumble against him. So I thought the pass rush would get home to CJ Stroud. He would panic in the pocket and make careless mistakes, and he did. And to your point, Drake May, against this really good Texans defense, showed up, made some stellar throws. Could have played a little bit better, but what can you do against the best defense in the National
Absolutely.
Football League in your second playoff game? So I think the Patriots really looked good in this game against the Houston Texans. But Joey, that brings me to my point. I want to ask you, do you think that CJ Stroud is the answer for the Houston Texans at the quarterback position moving forward?
Yeah, I know that's been the question that's been going on this week. We just started here. We're here at Tuesday. I think CJ Stroud is 100% a franchise quarterback in the NFL. I know a lot of people are going to have their ears up about that, and people are going to be up in flames because CJ Stroud. But people tend to forget that Patriots do have a good defense, and it is really hard to win in Foxborough. Yes, he was rough against the Steelers, but he did win Rookie of the Year in 2023. He has a total of 3 playoff wins. I think he just needs to get that confidence back. And when I watched the Texans last year when they had Bobby Slowick, they look like a total different team. But I think CJ Stroud, it's like a mental thing for him because he has the arm talent, he has the legs. I don't think it's not the physical aspect, it's not those traits there. I think it's more of a mental thing. I think when he shuts down, it's really, really bad. It's kind of like a it's almost like getting in their head. It's a mental game basically. It's like a block that he can't get past because he looked a little bit better in the second half. I saw some throws. I was like, okay, like this is going to become a better game. He got them in field goal position. They kicked the field goal. They were only down 5 points. You can say a lot of that testament is because of their defense. But yeah, I do think CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback in this NFL, and I don't think the Texans are going to move on from him because, then that raises the question of who are you going to go get? That's the biggest thing. I go back to coaching as well. It's like, well, you fired that guy. Well, who are you going to replace with him? So I think CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback in this NFL. I love that, Will Anderson and D'Amico Ryans were backing him after the game and, they were, keeping him have that sense of confidence. So
Yeah.
we'll see next year. They're going to get their weapons back. Of course, that team isn't going anywhere. That defense doesn't look like it's going to be changing. So I mean, you won 12 games with him, or obviously he was hurt for a couple games there. But yeah, I do think CJ Stroud is a franchise guy. I think it'd be absolutely crazy to move on from him already. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, see, this is the thing about CJ Stroud. I like CJ Stroud a lot. I think they should obviously keep him this offseason. He should return as their quarterback. But for the
Yeah.
future, I think they have to have some conversations this offseason because he did have a total of 7 total turnovers in the
Yeah,
Pittsburgh game and against you guys in the divisional round. And he's lucky the defense bailed him out in that wild card
absolutely.
game against the Pittsburgh Steelers because he did not play good. But honestly, I'm not sure if he can be the answer for the Texans moving forward. Now, he's heading into year 4, and he's had several different play callers in Houston. That could be a reason why he's starting to regress a little bit from his rookie year. But honestly, I felt like this was a year that they wasted that stellar defense, the best defense in the National Football League with hardly any holes. And he failed to play mistake-free football. If he played mistake-free football, did his job, we could possibly be talking about the Texans going to the Super Bowl, representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. But
Yep.
now you look at it, it's not the end of the world. He has 3 playoff wins, and now is 0-3 in the divisional round. And he lost it against some good teams over the years, like the Ravens in the divisional round, the Chiefs. Now this year, the Patriots, all road games in the divisional round. So he's had 2 different coordinators, and you can see he is regressing. I would bring him back for another year, but if you see regression here, that's where you could hit the panic button if you're the Houston Texans. And they have a big decision to make this offseason. Joey, I don't know if you know or not, but they have to make a decision if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option or not by May 1st. So I wouldn't pick up his 5th-year option. I would make him earn it, prove to everyone with that team around you that you could be the guy in Houston, continue to bring success. Then we can have conversation about his future. But I think next year he's going to have a scenario where he's going to have to go out there and prove why he should be the quarterback for this team.
No, I 100% agree with you. I'm a strong believer in don't just cater to these quarterbacks now with just by picking up a 5th-year option. Like I know I saw the Panthers are picking up Bryce Young's. Like I think they should make these quarterbacks earn it. Like
Yeah.
nothing is earned in life and nothing is earned in the NFL. Same thing there. Like your job can be, excuse me, taken away from you just like that. So no, they shouldn't pick up his 5th-year option. Like you said, they should make him earn it. I 100% agree with that. There's way too much talent on this Texans team. And now, of course, next year, is Joe Mixon going to be playing? Who knows about that? Because Nick
Oh,
Chubb,
yeah.
Woody Marks, that's another guy there as well. Um, when the Texans did that reshuffling of the offensive line this past offseason, when they traded Tunzel, when there was another move they made as well. The Kenyon Green pick didn't really work out for them.
Yeah.
So they really haven't had any luck there on the offensive line, but we don't play what ifs in the NFL like that. The Patriots deserve to win that game. They outplayed them. Hats off to that defense. I mean, there's some dogs in that defense that people don't know about, and that's exactly what I love. And I think that defense is a lot better than people give them credit for.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I think honestly, for the Texans, they got to build that offensive line to protect CJ Stroud because you're in a scenario where the offensive line and it's bad, but it's not as bad as like the Cincinnati Bengals, a scenario like that. But you don't want your
Yeah.
franchise quarterback to take the hits, and obviously he's that guy that needs more time in the pocket to make the throws, or he's going to make careless mistakes. Sometimes Stroud forgets that he can step up in the pocket, in my opinion, step up in the pocket and take off and run. If you have an offensive line that can protect a little better, you don't move off the pieces that they did during the offseason, then that might give CJ Stroud time to go over his reads, make better decisions in the pocket. So, yeah, I think to your point too, you got to give the Patriots credit for shutting this man down because it's hard to do that, especially for a talented player like CJ. But I think that's where our points are. He's got to earn it to prove you belong to be here because in a league where the quarterback market is broken, you really sometimes if a guy isn't working
Yeah.
out, you might want to go with a younger option because that gives you more time to build around the team and put money elsewhere rather than throwing a lot of money at a franchise quarterback.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Final game for the segment. This one was an absolute banger too. The Rams defeating the Bears in overtime by a score of 20-17. What's your thoughts on the Rams and Bears game?
Well, I think you probably know what I'm already going to say. There's something that I've been replaying in my mind since Sunday night when I first saw it on 4th and 4. Caleb Williams, the game is on the line. The closing pitcher is up there. He's down to his last strike and he strikes the guy out. I mean, that was one of the craziest throws I think I've ever seen in my life of watching football. I'm 27 years old. I've been watching football since I was probably 5 years old. I remember a lot of crazy throws, and that was one of the craziest throws I've ever seen. I mean, it was just absolutely remarkable that he was able to make that throw. I said on my podcast this morning, I said, there's only a couple quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that throw. Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, probably Lamar Jackson, and maybe Drake May because he has an insane arm. But other than that, I don't know. Maybe Justin Herbert, but because he's got another great arm. But that was just an insane throw. But aside from that, it was everything. That game lived up to everything and more. I loved how Chicago's defense adjusted. Getting pressure on Matthew Stafford. They ran the ball really well with Monangai and DeAndre Swift. But in the end, the Rams proved why that they were the better team. And I also said this earlier too. Caleb Williams is not to blame for that Bears loss. If you look at the box score, yes, he had 3 interceptions, but that throw to DJ Moore at the end there in overtime, I wouldn't blame Thomas. I wouldn't blame him for that throw. I watched it back a couple more times and I saw it and I was like, DJ Moore really didn't run the right route. And Cam Curl made a heck of a play by diving for that ball. Like Luther Burden is kind of by DJ Moore as well. But that's a Ben Johnson special right there. That's his type of play style. He's never going to change. He was aggressive all year on fourth down, and he was just like that for the Detroit Lions last year. That play style that Ben Johnson goes by comes back to bite you, and it did in the end. They could have taken their points in the first quarter when it was 0-0 and they went for it on fourth down. Points are crucial in a playoff game, and that was my biggest thing was the Bears not capitalizing on the opportunities that they were able to have in the game.
Yeah, this was a really good game. And other than that, it's hard to decide which game was better, this game or the Bills and Broncos game. But this
Yeah.
game was really fun and had a lot of momentum shifts. And it came down to which team could not make the mistake late in the game because both defenses played well enough to win this game. And Joey, just like you, I'm 27 years old. I never seen a throw like this ever in my life watching football. Like
Yep.
Caleb Williams, game on the line in the fourth quarter, just getting chased by a majority of the defensive line, just heaved it up. Picture perfect throw to Cole Kmet in the end zone for the touchdown. Now, my thing is, as good as the throw was, I would have liked that Ben Johnson was aggressive here. Because you go for two, it's like 18 seconds left in the game. You possibly go up by one, and can Matthew Stafford and the offense go down the field with possibly 15, 14 seconds left in the ball game? We would never know. So if you convert there, you possibly win the game by one. But I get Ben Johnson's point and not being too aggressive because the defense was playing good for a majority of the game. So I get going into overtime, you're at home, and you have your defense to lean on. So I will give him credit for that, but I think I would have rolled the dice there. But in the end, it was the veteran guy that got the job done. I said to people last week, a lot of people were very confused why I picked the Rams, but I felt like there's going to be a lot of momentum shifts, a lot of swing plays that could go in either way, but I'm going with the guy that has the most experience that could get the job done in a game-winning drive scenario is Matthew Stafford over Caleb Williams. And yeah, I agree with your point, Joey. If you box score watch the game, you'd say, oh, Caleb Williams played bad. I don't really think so with the 3 interceptions. And I agree with you. I think DJ Moore ran the wrong route on that final throw for Caleb Williams in the game that turned into an interception. But it was Stafford that just capitalized, had the game-winning drive, and they kicked the field goal in overtime for the win. But I think that was a really good game that honestly could have went either way.
I totally agree with you. And going back to what I was saying about Ben Johnson, that's Caleb Williams type of play style. But also too, they didn't need to call that play call to DJ Moore. You had other like I just don't think in that situation you need to go deep there. I know you're trying to go
Yeah.
for the home run ball there, but you have the opportunity to win the game. Like the ball is in your court and you go with a play like that. Like I don't know. I just thought, but then again, like it's what ifs. It's shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's you live and die by the sword. The Caleb Williams, Josh Allen. I compared Caleb Williams earlier in this season to Josh Allen. He's very jumpy in the pocket. That's the play style he is. He reminds me of a younger Josh Allen. Caleb Williams doesn't have the greatest mechanics. He doesn't have the greatest footwork. He's just a freak of nature as an athlete. He's kind of like a Mahomes, like he's like Mahomes' younger brother. Like that play style that he plays. He's got that baseball type play style. He's got a
Yep.
freakish arm. You don't know what to expect. He's not super consistent. Then he makes the crazy play to Cole Kmet. He said a couple weeks ago, he said, I forget who they were playing after the game. He goes, I can make any throw. There you go. He can make any throw. He just proved to you in the Cole Kmet play. He can make any throw. So I think the Bears have a really bright future. I'm super excited for them this offseason to see what they'll do. Obviously, they're losing Eric Bieniemy. He's going to be the new Chiefs offensive coordinator again. He's going to be reuniting there. They have a good two running back set with Monangai and DeAndre Swift. They've got some good defensive pieces. Of course, Caleb Williams will be going into year 3. Their offensive line took that next step this season because it was terrible last season. Of course, they traded for Joe Tooney. Darnell Wright has gotten better. That offensive line really took that next step. I want to see how Ben Johnson can figure this offense out even more next year with being year 2 because this was only year 1 and they looked really good. So I'm excited for the Bears. Their future is definitely bright with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about the Bears moving forward for their future because, like you said, this was only year 1 and they accomplished a lot. Several fourth quarter comebacks. I think 7 fourth quarter comebacks all year long. They were like the cardiac kings of the NFL.
Yes.
You think you have them put away? Not so fast. And Caleb Williams is a guy like he's a guy that will take risks. And if
Yes.
I'm looking for a quarterback to build a franchise around, he's the guy because he can make plays with his arm, make plays with his legs. He'll make mistakes, but a lot of these quarterbacks, if you're not Mahomes and Allen or Burrow, Lamar, you're going to make mistakes down the line. So why not have a good offensive play caller and a good head coach in Ben Johnson by his side? They have a lot to look forward to for the future. I still think they can hang in this dangerous NFC North division for a while. They got the defense. They already took care of the offensive line because they built that unit around Caleb Williams during last year's offseason. You get better at the defensive side of the ball, maybe get another playmaker on offense possibly, and I think they could be right back here and make it even further in the NFC next year.
Oh, absolutely. I think the sky's the limit for that team. Caleb Williams is a special talent. There's a reason why he was the number 1 overall pick, and he proved that this season. And if he cleans up some of those turnovers, like if he's able to, like, they sit there in the film room with him and they say, hey, that throw you made there, you probably could have made a better throw there. That interception you threw in week 10, you definitely could have made a better decision there. So I'm happy for the Bears. I got some friends that are Bears fans, and the Bears sucked for so long. The last playoff game they won before the wild card game was this 2010. Of course, you go back to the Cody Parkey missed field goal
Oh
there
my gosh.
against the Eagles. So you have that there. But I mean, just the difference a year makes from with coaching with Matt Eberflus to Ben Johnson, and you're just like, wow, like good for the Bears.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a team a lot of fans of football will like to follow for the rest
Yeah,
for the next couple of years for their for sake of the future. But yeah, definitely looking
absolutely.
forward to how their future plays out. But I'm looking forward to these future games, Joey. We'll move on to the AFC
Yeah.
and NFC Championship game prediction. So your team's up first. They'll get the first game on Sunday. The Patriots versus the Denver Broncos. Who do you think is going to win that game?
Well, of course, if you sit there and you close your eyes and you go, the Broncos and the Patriots, is Bo Nix playing? No, he's not. Well, I think this is going to be a lot closer game than people think. I know the Patriots are opened up, favorited at -5.5, and the line went back to 4.5, and I think it's at 6 right now on some books. But if you're asking me, the Patriots have never won a playoff game in Denver. Our last game we won in Denver was on December 24th with the Bailey Zappi Patriots era, which was an absolute disaster. But then you go back to the playoff games with Tom Brady and the AFC Championship games there. But that was then. This is now. It's still a very tough place to play. I got a chance to visit Denver this past August for a vacation for a bachelor party trip. We got a chance to go to tour the stadium. It's a unique place to play. Their fans are they bleed orange there in Denver. Orange crush, that's what they're all about. If Jared Stidham can make the throws that he needs to make in a game like this, and maybe there's not a lot of pressure on Jared Stidham, and I don't know how Sean Payton is going to go about this game. Sean Payton's a very aggressive type coach. He's kind of very similar to a Ben Johnson. You never know if he's going to run a fake punt. He's going to pull out all the tricks in a game like this because I feel like Sean Payton has nothing to lose in a game like this. You're playing without your starting quarterback. What could
Yep.
happen? My keys to this game are the Broncos going to be able to put pressure on Drake May? Can the Patriots offensive line block consistently for Drake May? Is Drake May going to be able to protect that ball? Is he going to be able to figure out the pressure? Because the Broncos do have a good defense. Now, of course, Jared Stidham hasn't thrown a pass since 2023, but I just can't see the Broncos winning this game. I think the Patriots will win this in a close game just because, of course, without Bo Nix. And even I think if Bo Nix was playing this game, I still like the Patriots. I actually did pick the Patriots and the Broncos to be in the AFC Championship before the playoffs started.
Wow.
I thought these were the two best teams in the AFC, just because I love Drake May, and I think the Patriots have been doubted all year, and I think they are one of the best teams in the NFL. Now you've seen with the four, and of course the Broncos as well. But yeah, I think the Pats will win in a very close game. I do love Mike Vrabel. I love the way he coaches these games, and I think the Patriots defense comes up big. I hope. Some people are going to say, I hope it's a blowout. I hope the Patriots just cakewalk their way to the Super Bowl. I don't want that. I want them to win this game by a touchdown, and I think they will. But I'm excited for this game. But it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be easy. The Denver Broncos have a really good defense, and they have a good offense as well. A really
Yeah,
good
this is
offensive
definitely
line.
going to be. What'd you say, Joey?
I said they have a really good offensive line. They can protect the quarterback at a very high rate. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree with you. I honestly think this is going to be a competitive game, Bo Nix in the lineup or not, because like you said, Sean Payton is playing with house money, rent money. Like he has nothing to lose, so he
Yep.
could call up anything he wants. And I think this game will be close due to the fact that Sean Payton actually has history with having success with backup quarterbacks. You look at his time with the New Orleans Saints, he had success with Jameis Winston in the lineup several times over in New Orleans. He actually had success with Teddy Bridgewater in the lineup several times in New Orleans as well. So he's not a stranger to using backup quarterbacks, but he's never used one in this type of scenario. But I think if Jarrett Stidham, like you said, makes the throws that he needs to, plays mistake-free football, do his job, this could honestly be a competitive game that comes down to the wire. But I do agree with you. I think the Patriots will win this game due to the fact that their pass rush will be disruptive. I think they'll find a way to crack the code on that good Denver Broncos offensive line. They'll force Jared Stidham to make mistakes in the pocket, possibly some strip sack fumbles. They've been doing that throughout the playoffs, and they could possibly force Jared Stidham to throw interceptions. I think you guys have a really good defense, well, a really good secondary. Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis at corner. Like your guys' secondary is really good, and I think they'll capitalize on those mistakes to win this game and punch their ticket to go to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, like I said, the another thing for this game as well is are the Patriots going to be able to get pressure on Jared Stidham because the Broncos do have a really good offensive line. Are the Patriots going to be able to run the ball effectively because the Broncos have a good defensive line?
Yeah.
Is this altitude, is this weather going to catch up to the Patriots? They haven't played here in 2 years. So there's a lot of questions going into this game. I don't like that they're flying in on Saturday. I really wish they would get some more days there, but I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. I don't think Sean Payton puts the ball. I don't think Sean Payton puts the ball in Jared Stidham's hands. I think he puts it in the ground game. They're supposed to get back J.K. Dobbins, and the Broncos have a good defense. They can definitely give the Patriots offensive line some fits. They're at home. They have that crowd advantage, but I think maybe it's a close game in the first half, but the Patriots pull away in the second. You just never know. It's a one game set. Jared Stidham did play for the Patriots. He's really got nothing to lose. He hasn't thrown a pass since 2023, but he's got legs. So we'll see. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it'll be a blowout.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to how that plays out. But in the NFC, you'll have
Yeah.
another NFC West showdown. These teams are tied 1-1 apiece between the Seahawks and the Rams. Who do you think is going to win the NFC Championship this year?
Well, my pick before the playoffs was the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl. My pick was the Patriots and the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl, and I'm sticking by that. I think Seattle takes advantage of that home crowd at home. I love Matthew Stafford, but my biggest thing for this game is I'm riding on Sam Darnold. I know he had the oblique injury last week, and it was kind of a fluke injury, but the Seahawks paid Sam Darnold for a reason. They believe in this guy. They have the number one seed. They have had one of their best seasons in franchise history, aside from the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, was over 10 years ago with Let Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson. But the Seahawks have been, some people may say, the best team in the NFL this season. They have the defense. We talked about that earlier on the show. So Mike McDonald's a great coach, but I also go back to, it's kind of like it's a chess match. You got Mike McDonald, you got Clint Kubiak, you got Sean McVay, and you got Chris Shula. Is Chris Shula going to be able to dial up the pressure against Sam Darnold and make Sam Darnold see ghosts and get him uncomfortable? If you can put pressure on Sam Darnold and you can get him off his game and you can take away Sam Darnold basically and have him feel uncomfortable, Rams will win this game. they've got a decent offensive line, but they don't have Zach Charbonnet. And it'll be interesting to see how the Rams can do against the Seahawks playmakers with Shaheed, with JSN. Are they going to be able to shut down one of those guys? Are they going to be bracketing JSN? So there's a lot of things that go into this game. And the Rams have a really good defensive line with Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Colby Young, and that defense plays hard. Chris Shula is a great defensive coordinator, but I'm still going to go with the Seahawks in a close game. I think they can pull this one out, but I would not be surprised if Matthew Stafford does win this game. He's a very tough quarterback to go up against. He's another guy. He's clutch in the end, and I think this comes down to the end as well. I think it's a very tight game, just like we saw last weekend with the Bills and the Broncos and the Bears and the Rams. I think this will be a really tight game.
Yeah, I think this would be a really close competitive game. I'm going to go with the Seahawks to defeat the Rams here. Now, honestly, I think the blueprint is out to how to beat the Los Angeles Rams because they were in two close competitive games in the playoffs against the Panthers and the Bears, and both defenses found ways at times to stall out and stop the Los Angeles Rams on the offensive side of the ball. I think if you put the pressure on Matthew Stafford, which the Seahawks have a really good pass rush, they'll get home to Matthew Stafford, blitz him, make him feel uncomfortable in the pocket. I noticed a lot of times in the Panthers and the Bears games where defenses would play man-to-man coverage and have some high safety looks. That's a really good way to slow down Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. We've seen that when the Panthers and the Bears did that. I think that's a key ingredient to success with Seattle Seahawks. I think if they do their job offensively, like you said, if Sam Darnold doesn't turn over the football, maybe they might need Kenneth Walker to step up even more running the football. I still think they can win time possession to keep Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams off the field, and they'll do their part offensively. I like Jackson Smith and Najigba getting going against this Rams secondary. I actually like Cooper Kupp possibly having a revenge game against the Los
Ooh,
Angeles Rams in this game against his former team. If they
yep.
play mistake-free football, they don't turn over the football, they get some stops, and they could cash in on points, whether it's 3.6 points. I think the Seahawks can win this game and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl.
I do too, and I'm really excited to see this matchup. But it just goes back to Sean McVay is a great coach. He's been in this position before. Mike
Yeah.
McDonald's never been in this position. You have the home field, but in the playoffs, like with Matthew Stafford, he's a great quarterback, man. Like in the end, if who I think really is going to come down to whoever gets the ball at the end of the game is going to win this game. That's really what I think it comes down to. I think it's a last possession type thing, kind of similar to the Bears and the Rams game from this past Sunday, but I'm super excited, but I still got to go with the Seahawks. I think they're the most complete team in the NFL, and some people may say they may just roll their way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think this game could be one game we remember for a long time in the NFC for NFC Championship game.
I agree
Uh,
with that.
yeah, for sure. So we'll move on to the next segment. So we'll be sharing our thoughts on the latest NFL head coaching hirings and the firings that's going on in the NFL. Joey, as you know, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I'm going
Yeah.
to say what I believe about John Harbaugh going to New York. But I want your thoughts about John Harbaugh becoming the next New York Giants head coach.
Yeah, so of course when the Baltimore Ravens fired John Harbaugh, I thought this was going to happen. I thought if they didn't make the playoffs that this was going to be the case, but I think Steve Bisciotti, excuse me, said that we needed a fresh change of scenery for John Harbaugh. It was time, 18 seasons, 180 wins there, Super Bowl title. But I think this is the right hire for the Giants. They've been an absolute dumpster fire the past couple seasons with Joe Judge, Pat Shermer, Brian Dable. They just drafted Jackson Dart. Their front office has kind of been a mess. They really haven't hit on the correct draft picks. And I think a guy like John Harbaugh, he can take all his success up from Baltimore and bring this to New York and bring them back into some sort of contention. Like I think that they go from a 4-win team from last year to 8-9 wins this season. Jackson Dart has got talent. They've got a decent offensive line. They have a good defensive line. They have some pieces on defense. But I think you got to instill some sort of accountability and bring that Giants culture back. Like maybe from what they had with Tom Coughlin, because it's been embarrassing the past couple seasons watching the Giants. But I think it's an A hire if you're asking me, John Harbaugh. I think really there was a no-brainer. And if I'm John Harbaugh from the other teams that were out on the market, why the heck would I want to go to the Dolphins? They have no cap space. They don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Yeah, it's warm weather. They don't have any direction on offense. They've got two good pieces in Jalen Waddle and HN. Their defense is an absolute mess. The Giants have a top 5 pick. They have a young, promising quarterback in Jackson Dart. They have a number 1 wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. You saw what they did against the Eagles. They beat them earlier this season. They should have beat the Broncos earlier this season. If they would have won that game, the Patriots would be hosting the Denver Broncos right now. So,
Yeah.
but I'm happy for the Giants fans and John Harbaugh, like some sort of accountability and stability there because, like, I'm a Patriots fan. We had Gerard Mayo last year, and people and say so many different things. He didn't really get a fair shot. The roster construction was terrible. But when you have a guy out there like a John Harbaugh, who's a Super Bowl winner, who has experience, who has been in the NFL for a really long time, he knows what it takes to win. It made perfect sense, and that it was the right hire. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. You had a lot of good points here. So I got some positives and negatives for John Harbaugh going to New York.
Of
Now,
course,
obviously, I think minus the Ravens' destination, this was the best place for any head coach to land a job this NFL offseason is going to the New York Giants. So John Harbaugh was the best head coach on the market. He goes to one of the best places available in New York with the New York Giants. And I agree with you. Like, this is a good head coach that has had success in the NFL. It was just time for him and the Ravens to split up. But this is like a mega upgrade if you're a Giants fan, because like you said,
yes,
Brian Dable, Joe Judge, Ben McAdoo, like they've been through the ringer with some head coaches, and John
yes,
Harbaugh is a stable guy that can win. But I'm starting to see a little pattern here with the New York Giants because we go back in history. Tom Coughlin was a veteran coach, brought to New York. Eli Manning was a former Ole Miss quarterback that got an Ole Miss quarterback in Jackson Dart, and they have a really good pass rush that could be an elite pass rush. And all of those things helped the New York Giants win 2 Super Bowls in the Eli Manning and the Tom Coughlin era. So they're doing a good job this offseason bringing in John Harbaugh. And I agree with you. They have potential to win 8 to 9 games next year. They got a really tough schedule next year, and so does the NFC East. But they have the potential. Like you have Jackson Dart, you have Cam Scattergood that's going to be coming back, Malik Neighbors that's going to be coming back. You got a good defensive line, really good offensive pieces, maybe build up the defense during the offseason. But my thing is, I hope John Harbaugh doesn't get caught up in the New York media because some Giants fans might be a little aggressive. They might want too much or be expecting too much in the first year or so in the John Harbaugh era. They have a really tough schedule. We got to remember there is a reason why John left or got fired by the Ravens because several fourth quarter collapses over the last few years. Leadership towards his end of his tenure was a question mark in that Ravens locker room. It's not official, but it seems like they're going to bring in Todd Monken as the play caller. I don't like that. I think you need to bring in a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator you never worked with. I think that would be best for the team moving forward because Todd Monken underutilized Derrick Henry in a lot of do or die scenarios. You go back to that game against your Patriots where he only played 24 snaps. And then in the
yep.
second half against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's only getting 5 carries where these are 2 games where he's having explosive games and you underutilize him. So I don't think they should bring in Todd Monken, just bring in fresh coordinators. But that's my point as well. I hope things work out for John Harbaugh, and I hope the Giants do become a better team because that just makes the division even more fun to pay attention to. I really feel like for now they're still the third best team in the division behind the Eagles. I still think they're the best, and I still think they take a backseat to the Dallas Cowboys, even though they got to figure out the defensive things. But I think the John Harbaugh era could work in New York, but I think he's going to be on a short leash, a short time span of a year and a half to 2 years to figure it out. If they don't like the direction it's going in, I think he's going to get the boot in New York.
Which is crazy to say, but that's how the New York media is. That's the expectations there. He knew what he was signing up for when he took that job, but I think he does have the ability to turn that team around. And I'm excited to see how he'll maximize Jackson Dart because Jackson Dart has a lot of potential. I know this was his
Yes.
first year, but I think the Giants should have just kept Brian Dable till the end of the season and let him, work with Jackson Dart. But that's not how it works in the NFL. Of course the fourth quarter collapses against the Bears, the fourth quarter collapse against the Broncos. Like they were going to be moving on from him. But I'm excited to see how he'll be able to maximize Jackson Dart. And they probably will be drafting Caleb Downs at 5, kind of mirroring what he did in Baltimore with Kyle Hamilton, using him kind of in that same situation there of kind of like a hybrid linebacker, bring him up in the box type feel there. But definitely excited for Giants fans to see how John Harbaugh will do and to see if Jackson Dart can take that next step with this offense. You're going to get Malik Neighbors back next year, another year with that defensive line. Maybe they get some guys in free agency. You never know. So things can change around in offseason. Look at the Patriots. So you never know. Coaching matters. It's a
Yeah, definitely going to be something to look forward to. And one of the biggest headlines heading into next year's season is how John Harbaugh and this New York Giants team can compete in the league. I really want to know your thoughts on this hire in Atlanta because I'm kind of
Yeah.
conflicted about this one. What's your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski becoming the new Atlanta Falcons head coach?
Well, Kevin Stefanski's a two-time head coach of the year. Obviously, he had a rough end with the Cleveland Browns at the end there, but I don't know. I could, you could think about this in so many different ways. I'm not a big Michael Penix fan. I do love their defense. I think they've got some really good young pieces there with Watts and Jalen Walker and Jesse Bates. They have some pieces there, of course, but I'm just not sold on Michael Penix, and that's my biggest thing. But I think Stefanski brings in a fresh, set of scenery there. He does, hold, players accountable. And I do like, of course, Bijan Robinson. Their offensive line is solid, but I don't know. Like it's not really like it's not. I don't think it's a home run hire, but I think that they, in a perfect world, they probably would have wanted Mike Tomlin. But obviously, he's probably most likely going to be going to TV this
Yeah.
upcoming season, taking a break, kind of taking the Sean Payton route. The Pittsburgh Steelers still own his rights. But I'd give this like a 80 grade, 78 to 80. Like it's not. I don't think it really moves the needle. And I don't know. I'm not like extremely sold on it. I don't think that I don't know how much better the Falcons will be. I think they have to figure out the quarterback situation because, of course, Penix tore his ACL. They have Kirk Cousins still on the books there. And is Penix a long-term guy? I don't think he is. So, but you got your head coach. I like that they brought back Jeff Ulbrich. He's done a great job with that defense since he's been there. And that's really my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, that's my thing about this hire because I feel like in an off season where there's so many different options you could have went to, I don't know about this one. I'm kind of on the fence about this one because Kevin Stefanski, to your point, he was a two-time Coach of the Year and did win a playoff game for the Cleveland Browns. Like I think for the first time in like 17 to 18 years in Cleveland. So that's a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
But it's just like Kevin Stefanski. I could see why the Falcons brought him in because he is an offensive-minded guy, and you have a lot of offensive weapons that you could play with Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney. If they decided to bring back Kyle Pitts on some type of contract to bring it back to Atlanta, and my concern about him is it's management skills in games, like game clock management. We've seen that it's been an issue for him. Accountability on the offensive side of the ball concerns me because at times you could see like, oh, I'm wiping my hands clean of the play calling in Cleveland. But I do like the point that you said that he does hold players accountable. I do like that about Kevin Stefanski. That's the thing about this Atlanta job because as good as it is with that defense and the offense, you just got a big question mark at the quarterback position. The Michael Penix injury. And I agree with you, Joey. I'm not really 100% sold on him just yet. And the Kirk Cousins situation, are you going to bring him back or not? So the quarterback position is still unknown. I think he could be a much better coach here in Atlanta with a much better team around him than he once was in Cleveland. I guess time will tell to see if this was a good hire or not by the Atlanta Falcons.
I agree. I think really the main thing that you have to take away from this is yes, Kevin Stefanski's here, but until Michael Penix gets healthy, you really can't judge Kevin Stefanski because I don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to be playing next year. Obviously, he's still under contract. He could he could end up on the Steelers. He could end up back on the Vikings. Like we don't know. So
Yeah.
until they get Michael Penix back fully healthy, and if they do re-sign Kyle Pitts, then yeah, we can really have that conversation about Kevin Stefanski. But right now, it's just another hire to me. It's not really it doesn't really move the needle for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. This one's in your division. I really, really want your thoughts on this one because I'm still confused on this one.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott was fired by the Buffalo Bills. What's your thoughts on Sean McDermott no longer being the coach in Buffalo?
Well, Sean McDermott had an 8-8 playoff record with the Buffalo Bills, and he was there for 9 seasons. And sometimes, that getting over the hump for that next coach, it's not a bad thing. You back years ago, you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they fired Tony Dungy and they hired John Gruden. Sometimes an offensive-minded guy for a guy like Josh Allen is not a bad thing. Yes, Sean McDermott brought in a ton of stability for that organization. Yes, they were a dumpster fire before he got there, but he was very predictable. And I thought once that pass interference thing happened and he basically ran his mouth to the media and he basically spouted off to the refs, he was basically gone. I really think the Bills front office gave him an ultimatum, and they were having some turmoil. I saw earlier today, a couple weeks ago, with the front office and Brandon Beane and the owner Terry Bagula and Sean McDermott. They all had a meeting and it wasn't going the way that it was projected to go. Sean McDermott's going to be picked up by another team. I thought it could have been the Dolphins yesterday, but then I thought to myself, well, they hired John Eric Sullivan, the GM. Now he's the GM. He was with the Packers. And then
Yeah.
the Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley. So I thought potentially that, but some other team is definitely going to pick up Sean McDermott. I'm not surprised the Falcons didn't do it because they want to go in an offensive direction with Kevin Stefanski. I don't know if he'll go to another contender. Maybe the Steelers. I saw Mike McCarthy is potentially linked to the Steelers. And if that happens, Aaron Rodgers won't be back because that relationship didn't work out.
Yeah.
But Sean McDermott, he's a good coach, but sometimes, it just doesn't work out the way you want it to. But the days of I said this on the podcast last week, the days of having the coaches of the 18 years of the Tomlins, the Harbaughs, the Belichicks, those are rare cases. Of course, you have Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. You have your anomaly type coaches. Andy Reid, he's been with the Chiefs since he left the Eagles. I think he's been there since 2013. So like you have those situations there, but they're very rare. And 9 seasons is a long time for a coach. 9 seasons is a long time for any job, any job. So, but I'm excited to see who they'll bring in, and it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be an offensive minded guy for sure.
Yeah. And this is the thing about Sean McDermott. I don't know. I felt like this was kind of the wrong decision or the wrong time to get rid of him. Because I think he's one of the best head coaches in Buffalo Bills history based off of the track record that we have with him of winning 98, having 98 wins, 8 playoff appearances, 2 conference championship game appearances, 7 straight double-digit victory seasons for the Bills, and 5 AFC East titles. Now, the thing is, I do get your point, Joey, and I understand people of it. The 18-year era with coaches is over, and if you can't get over the hump in a certain amount of time, it should be over. I honestly think that does make sense, but in this case scenario, it was hard for him to get over the hump. I mean, you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and it is his job. But a lot of people haven't defeated Mahomes in the playoffs. But I honestly think if you're going to get rid of Sean McDermott, general manager Brandon Beane should be fired also. He has to be held
Yes.
accountable because I honestly think Sean McDermott overachieved with this roster this year. They won one playoff game at least, and you defeated a 13-4 team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the road wild card weekend. That was already a tough task. And it's not like they got blown out against the Denver Broncos. Like they hung in there with the #1 seed all the way into overtime, deep into overtime. So I think they overachieved with not having a true #1 wide receiver. I mean, that receiving room is not the best, and honestly is one of the worst in the NFL. And Brandon Beane has only drafted 2 Pro Bowlers to put alongside Josh Allen since 2018. And those players are James Cooks and Dawson Knox. So it just makes me think if you're going to get rid of one problem in your eyes, get rid of the next problem, the guy up top, the general manager, and Brandon Beane, because he could have gave Josh Allen and the Bills a #1 wide receiver by the deadline, possibly called the Philadelphia Eagles, check up on that scenario with A.J. Brown. You could possibly be aggressive and make an in-house or in-division trade with the Dolphins, try to get Jalen Waddle. A phone call doesn't help or doesn't hurt. I think there could have been more scenarios where the Bills could have been put in a better direction to compete. But I think they just overachieved this year with this banged-up defense, not having a true #1 wide receiver. And honestly, I think that's the outcome you'll get if you're asking Josh Allen to put a Superman cape on every single game with not a lot of resources around him.
Yep. Back to what I was saying earlier. You live and die by the sword. Like everything is so Josh Allen reliant. It's almost like there's a 2008 like Chevy Tahoe and it's got 200,000 miles. It's like in the family there's a family of five in the car. It's like eventually this thing's going to break down. Like eventually Josh Allen it's going to happen. Like all these turnovers are going to happen because you're so reliant on him. But yes, back to what you were saying about the Bills and Brandon Beane in the draft. It's like I will always replay this in my mind and I know the Bills front office does as well. You traded with the Kansas City Chiefs for the Xavier Worthy Keon Coleman trade. How do
Yeah,
you
that was horrible.
how do you not think to yourself that you made that trade and that is your arch rival and Josh Allen cannot get over the hump against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? It's like, why would you make that kind of trade in a draft like that? It's like
Yes.
that's trading with your rival. That's like Apple working with Samsung. No, no, they don't do that. No, 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 no. It's like Pepsi and Coke collaborating. That's never going to happen. So that I thought there as well, and their draft picks in the past, really a lot of their guys they haven't really panned out, and that's a testament on Brandon Beane there. So yes, I thought it was crazy that they promoted him to president of operations more than anything. It's like if you're going to fire your head coach and you're going to give Brandon Beane a promotion, it's like what? So I really think the Bills will hire an offensive minded guy. I would maybe they promote Joe Brady as head coach because he's comfortable with Josh Allen, but nothing's going to
Yeah.
change until you get a number one wide receiver. You fix the pieces on offense and you get some playmakers. But they're paying Josh Allen so much money. They're paying some guys on defense. They're kind of in like that. It's
Stuck
just
situation.
they're stuck. They're in the mud. It's like, how can we get out of this? I don't know what they're doing with the whole two tight end set with Dawson Kincaid and Dawson Knox, excuse me. So that's another thing there. You paid James Cook all that money last year. You have a really good offensive line, like Spencer Brown, Osiris Torrance, Mitch Morse. Like that offensive line is good. So
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what they do this offseason. I think if they want to bring back an offensive minded guy, a guy that's familiar and comfortable with Josh Allen, and you can get a number one wide receiver, Brian Dable.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because I'm
Yeah.
like, at this point, with John Harbaugh off the market and Robert Saleh wasn't going to go there, like who could the Bills get? And I was thinking maybe Brian Dable could go back to Buffalo because how he's fixed the mechanics of Josh Allen when he came out of college. He was not the
Yes.
player that he is today. But when Brian Dable was the offensive play caller in Buffalo, he helped Josh Allen fix his mechanics. He became the superstar player or dual threat quarterback in the league, and it still is one of the best in the game today. I'm just thinking if you moved off of successful head coach that was a defensive minded guy, you possibly want to get an offensive minded guy. Joe Brady is there to elevate from being an offense coordinator to being the head coach, but that goes to your point too. Maybe this is what Josh Allen needs, an offensive guy. And you don't really need someone like the best top tier head coach, but if you can get your hands on Brian Dable that does have head coaching experience with the New York Giants, did it play out the best? No, but you can still get him there to help Josh Allen. He possibly takes over and calls plays as a head coach too. I like that. You bring him in, and then to your point, they get a offensive play offensive play catcher as the number one wide receiver out there, and yeah, things could possibly turn around in Buffalo.
They had a number one wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, and it didn't work out the way that they wanted to. But sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. So now you make the phone calls again this offseason, and maybe you can try to get a George. Well, the Cowboys are probably going to franchise tag him. I'm sure there. Maybe you call the Niners for Brandon Ayuk, fresh change of scenery. Like you've got to make a call to somebody and say, hey, what can we get for a number one wide receiver from you guys? Like what are we willing to do here? Or we draft somebody properly. But I think you can't do that. I think you gotta go get a home run guy in free agency trade wise because you can't play with fire in the draft. There's not much more time left. Like we don't know how many more seasons Josh Allen is going to have at this level that he's been playing at. Yes, he won the MVP last year, but he's 30 years old, I think, if I'm not mistaken. 29 or 30. So he's getting up there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and I agree with you because the time is now. Like you can't play around at this point because and honestly, it might get to the point where the Bills start accepting phone calls of what you could get for Josh Allen to possibly hit the rebuild button if things don't get better because this is a player, like you said, that might not last that long playing at this level. Like he'll still be a good quarterback, but eventually that wear and tear on these dual threat quarterbacks, the hits that these players absorb, like they'll want to play smarter. And if he's just a pocket passer, maybe he's not that same dynamic player. So that does make sense. And I think they definitely got to make some moves this offseason to make this team in a better position to compete in the AFC because you guys aren't going anywhere. The Texans aren't going anywhere. I think the Ravens will be back. The Chiefs
The
possibly
Jaguars.
back. The Jaguars, like there's so many good teams, and if you can't keep up, then that's a problem that the front office is going to have to address, and that could lead to the frustration of Josh Allen possibly wanting out or being traded for future assets.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely going to be an interesting offseason for the Bills. We'll go
Uh,
over one more head coaching hire. I want to know your thoughts on Robert Saleh becoming the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
yeah, I saw this news late last night. I was actually about to go to bed, and I was like, ah, Robert Saleh of the Titans. I know that they interviewed with Matt Nagy, Jason Garrett, and I was like, thank gosh. But I am not mad about this. I don't know if he's the right hire, but the Titans, they need to, bring back they got to figure out something on defense because Salah's a defensive guy, and you saw what he did with the Niners with their defensive unit and how banged up they were and how they were able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So maybe you can take that blueprint and bring it over to the Titans. You got Jeffrey Simmons. You have well, they have Jeffrey Simmons. There's some other guys they have. I can't think on the top of my mind, player wise, but they have like like a decent defense. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst, but
Yeah.
Salah, he can instill that defensive, grit and tenacity that he has. But my biggest thing really goes back to Cam Ward. You didn't really help Cam Ward because Salah's a defensive guy. I thought maybe an offensive minded guy would have made sense. Maybe try to lure Joe Brady from the Buffalo Bills. Maybe you can lure Clint Kubiak, but they thought Saleh was the guy, and I don't think many coordinators or coaches want to play or want to coach, excuse me, for the Tennessee Titans. Like their front office is a disaster. They were 3-14 last year. Like I think Cam Ward's really talented, but they didn't really do anything to help him out. And we'll see in the draft what they do, and it'll be interesting to see. But I'm not like extremely sold on the Salah hire. And then of course, his time with the Jets was an absolute disaster. And you can say, well, I don't really want to blame Salah for that because the Jets are a mess. They've been a mess for years. So I don't know. The Titans don't like they're not a big market team. And I really hope that they get an offensive coordinator in there for Cam Ward, like a legit OC that's like a kick-ass OC, really more than anything. Because I love Cam Ward. I think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, and I feel good about this hire, but I do get your points of Robert Saleh because I think the potential is there for him to be a good head coach, and there were some bright spots with his tenure for the New York Jets. It wasn't great, it wasn't good, but some bright spots were there because he did go 7-10 a couple years with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. Once you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you think everything's going to be peachy keen. Things fall apart. Aaron Rodgers wants to be the GM, and he gets fired midway point of the season a few years ago. Now, I do give him credit for doing a great job with the San Francisco 49ers defense that for majority of the year did not have their top tier players of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. And I think it's best for him to continue play calling for the defensive side of the ball next year. He'll continue that with the Titans. And I'm looking at the scenario. I do agree with you. Cam Ward needs a good offensive play caller. So they got to hit on an offensive play caller for him as an offensive coordinator. But they got some pieces. I mean, they got Cam Ward, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, if he can stay healthy, a solid defense. They do have $100 million in cap space this offseason, and they have a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. You make some key splashes in free agency. You hit on your top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Who knows? It could be like in a scenario you guys were in, like a 4-13
Yeah.
team. Then you quickly turn things around. And for the Jaguars, they were a 4-13 team too a year ago, and they turned things around. So it's like one of the scenarios where it can work. But I do see where you're coming from. There's a lot of panic or a lot of what if questions about the Titans because they're a small market team. The front office is not really good, and you really need a good play caller to help develop this young quarterback in Cam Ward before it's too late in Tennessee. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about possibly Robert Saleh turning things around, but we'll definitely see how things go in the direction they go in next year.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And my next, excuse me, thing that I would make about that is Tennessee is a lot less, it's a lot smaller market than the Jets. So maybe the pressure, Salah doesn't feel it as much as he did in New York, like we were talking about with Harbaugh earlier. Like sometimes some of these coaches can't survive in these big markets. It's not a bad thing. It's just the nature of the NFL. So maybe the pressure is he feels less scrutinized in Tennessee than he would for the Jets. But biggest thing is find Cam Ward some playmakers, find Cam Ward an offensive coordinator that's a legit OC, and then you really can have that feeling of wow, we can really be something maybe. Or like you said, they have a top 5 pick, 100 million in cap space. To be interesting to see how they utilize all that cap. And I hope they have a decent offseason. I'd be interesting to see who they draft at 5 because I would think they would probably draft a wide receiver more than anything. Maybe Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. I don't know
Mm.
if Carnell Tate will go top five. He'll probably go top 10, but it'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft for sure. Maybe they go offensive line, maybe they go D line. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, because they definitely could use another wide receiver alongside Calvin Ridley as well. But we'll move
Absolutely.
on to the final segment here. We'll pivot over here to college football. Joey, I want your thoughts on the college football national championship game last night. Indiana defeated Miami by a score of 27-21 to win their first national championship in program's history. What's your thoughts on Indiana defeating Miami?
Well, I thought it was a great game. I was really happy that it wasn't a blowout. That was my biggest thing. And a lot of Miami fans were upset because they Carson Beck threw that interception. But kind of what I was telling you earlier about Caleb Williams in the NFL, that loss is not on Carson Beck. Miami didn't score any points in the first half. If Miami would have scored in the first half, we might be talking about a total different game. Their defense stepped up in the second half, big. And another thing too. They were able to get pressure on Fernando Mendoza, which I thought they were going to be able to do with Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, and Corey Heatherman was dialing up the blitzes the way he's been doing all season. But in the end, Kurt Signetti was absolutely gutsy, calling two fourth down calls in the fourth quarter with the run QB draw to Fernando Mendoza up the middle when he scored that touchdown, which will probably be framed in history books forever. Then you had the back shoulder throw on third down to Charlie Becker.
Yep.
Then there was another fourth down that they went for, but Miami had some penalties, of course, and really the only reason why Miami got the ball at the end of the game there was because of the false start on Indiana's offensive lineman, where it was 2nd and 1, and then it became 2nd and 6 with the false start. So if we don't have that false start there, the game's over. So I don't think Carson Beck should have thrown that ball. I watched it back so many different times. I watched it. I was like, oh, they rushed four. It was a zone. There was a safety over the top, and then you had the defensive back, and he made a heck of a play. But I think in that situation, you didn't need to throw that ball there. But I love the way Miami ran the ball effectively, and Indiana really didn't make any mistakes. I thought they called basically almost a perfect game, but I thought it lived up to everything and more. Congratulations to Indiana on winning their first, national championship in school history. Thomas, if you would have told me a couple years ago that Indiana would be competing for a national championship, I would have said, "Are you talking about basketball or are you talking about football?" But now with NIL, the landscape has completely changed. It's a total different world now, and it's cool to see. And I think one of the coldest things you'll ever hear in all of sports is Kurt Signetti, "I win, Google me." That will go down in history forever. 16-0 season, the first time a team has won 16 games in a college football season since 1984, which was Yale. So hats
That's
off to them on
crazy.
hats off to them on a great season. They had a lot of older guys. Mendoza was the best quarterback in college football this season, and it was an awesome, awesome victory for them last night. I would have loved to see Miami win because I live in Florida. I have some friends that are Miami fans. It would have been cool to see Miami get back to the mountaintop the first time since making the national championship, and they won in 2001. And then, of course, they had the Ohio State one there in '02. But Indiana deserved to win that game. They made the plays when it mattered most, and it never comes down to one play. And what ifs, right? If Miami would have made that field goal kick in the first half, if Miami would have scored points in the first half. But in the end, the better team won, and it was a great outcome. And I'm sad that college football's over, but it was a great game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joey. Like this was a game for the ages between Indiana and Miami, and honestly, there was a lot of momentum swings once Indiana went up 10-0 in this game. Like you had a lot of swing plays that could have went in either way. I will go back to your point too. If Miami actually scores points in the first half, we could be talking about a different outcome. But as the second half went on, like there were some big plays on both sides. You had Miami, the Fletcher 57-yard rushing touchdown. Indiana having the block punt touchdown.
Yes.
Miami scoring two straight touchdowns when they got the ball too. But I thought it was really crazy, really risky for Indiana deep into Miami's territory in the red zone on that huge 4th and 4 quarterback design run for Fernando Mendoza. Like you said, the touchdowns could be framed across campus for years, like for eternity, because he had the 12-yard touchdown. I honestly thought that was one heck of a gamble. I'm thinking, why not just take the points? But if you're that confident in your Heisman Trophy winner, go ahead, get the first down. But he did even more, got the rushing touchdown. That was basically the nail in the coffin for Indiana. Now, they did get the ball again, and they kicked the field goal. It was 27-21. And Carson Beck did get a chance to be the hero, win the game. To your point, I don't think you could really pinpoint that on Carson Beck, them losing the game, because if you do a better job in the first half, possibly they are in position to just kick a field goal and win the game or a different scenario. So I don't think the interception on the final drive really determined the game. I think all four quarters really determined the game. And Miami, to their slow start in the first half, I think that really costed them. But like you said, Joey, this is an incredible story for Indiana. Like first 16-0 undefeated team to win a national championship since Yale. And they did it with 0 5-star recruits, only
Yeah.
seven 4-star recruits like Kurt Sidnetti. Google me. Like this is like a Cinderella team that you can pitch. This is something like you pitch up in March Madness, not college
Yes.
football, but
No.
the landscape's different, everything's different. And I think this is definitely going to be a season we remember based off of what Indiana accomplished with I wouldn't say less resources, but at the same time you look at the recruiting class, things like that. They did have less talent around, and they beat down teams like Alabama, Oregon, and then defeated Miami. I think this is one heck of a story for college football.
Beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. So
Oh yeah, that game
it,
too. Yeah,
and another thing too is people are going to. I hope people don't forget about this national championship. Like if you're a sports fan, like hopefully maybe you can look back on this game 10 years from now and go, Indiana won the national championship in 2026 with 0 5-star recruits. Indiana willed their way. Like if there's any kid out there or there's any person out there that has a dream and they're motivated, like just keep going, man. Like don't listen to what the haters have to say. Like Fernando Mendoza wasn't picked up by Miami. Another player last night, the player that made the game winning interception, wasn't recruited by Miami. He wanted to go there. Now, not every player can go to Miami just because you live there, but like just have faith, like believe in yourself, man, because that's exactly what Indiana did last night. In 2023, they were 3-9 and they were 11-2 last year, capping off this season 16-0, defying all odds. Like it just gives me the feeling of like when the Cavs were down 3-1 in the 2016 NBA Finals, no everyone
yeah,
counted them out, or the Giants against the Patriots in both those Super Bowls, everyone thought those games were lost. And Indiana's not really an underdog story, it's just the narrative around it. But it was a great season for them. I really hope people don't forget it. I hope it's not like a Texas Rangers World Series or a Denver Nuggets championship against the Heat a couple years ago. Like this wasn't a special team. They deserve to be glorified, that they deserve to be rewarded. Fernando Mendoza transferred from Cal last year, goes to Indiana this year, wins a Heisman. Nobody picks them to win the national championship before the season starts. I think they had like 300-1 odds to win it all, and they defied all odds. Like it was a storybook ending for them. Good for them at winning their first national championship. But it was an awesome game.
yeah. That's definitely going to be a season that we can all remember. And I think Kurt Signetti is already in the conversation for being one of, if not the best coach in college football. Because yeah, there's a Kirby Smart. Yeah, we've seen so many other great coaches, Ryan Day, so many others around the country. But I still can't get over you won a national championship with 0 5-star recruits. Like that's the true definition of building something from the ground up. And only 2 years in Indiana. Like it wasn't like he's been there for a decade. Two
No,
years. That is insane to me.
it's not, Thomas, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And that's exactly the motto when Indiana hired Kurt Signetti. He started at James Madison before he was at Indiana, and before that he was on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama. So it's
Yeah.
not where you start, it's where you finish. And that was a big thing with Indiana this year. And like you said, 0 5-star recruits. It was a special game to watch. It was just like, what? Like this team is doing this? What? Like really? But
Yeah.
they played a complete, they almost called a perfect game. Mendoza didn't have any turnovers. They didn't fumble the ball. And that was my biggest thing in that game is Indiana doesn't really make many mistakes. Miami got a lucky break with that false start there because Indiana does not make mistakes. So they almost called a perfect game. But it was awesome to see. I watched it back this morning. I'll probably watch it back again, and maybe I'll watch it back with the Titanic music, just because it was that fun to watch. So it was an awesome game.
Yeah, this is gonna be a game we remember. But Joey,
Yeah,
before we log off, I do have one more question for you. Because
ask
I've seen
away.
you talk about this on your own podcast, on your
Yep.
platform. Do you think that the Big Ten Conference is the best conference in college football right now?
Yes, I am a strong believer in, how I say things is if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The SEC had their dominant years for so many years with Saban, with Georgia, with LSU. Florida had their run in the BCS, my Gators with Urban Meyer all those years. But yes, the Big Ten, the last 3 seasons has been the best conference in college football. I think the landscape has completely changed and it's given players the opportunity. But I don't want people to sit here and think that the SEC is going anywhere. They're not. But now with NIL, it's opened up a can of worms where these players can leave the SEC and they can go to the ACC. They can go to the Big Ten. They can go to the Big 12 and they're offered more money. Like Brendan Sorsby was offered $5 million from Texas Tech and he was at Cincinnati before he transferred. Like before, you would have been like, Texas Tech has a football team? Like, yeah, you remember Patrick Mahomes and Cliff Kingsbury, but like, no, like what? But now, same thing with Indiana. They have NIL money. So yes, the Big Ten was the best conference in college football this season. But hey, next season's a total different game. For this season, they were, but who knows next year? The SEC isn't going anywhere. Lane Kiffin has just arrived to LSU with Sam Levitt. Florida Gators with John Summerall. They may spark some they might spark some flames down there in Gainesville. Alabama's not going anywhere. Georgia's not going anywhere with Kirby Smart. Like the SEC isn't going anywhere. The Big Ten's only going to get better, of course. With USC, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Kyle Whittingham. So, but those two conferences are going to be battling out. Miami has a ton of money in NIL. Like everyone wants to play for Miami now. So
Yeah.
the narrative of the SEC is the best conference has completely shifted because of NIL. Now, Thomas, if you will go back to the old format and the 14 playoff, we'll be having a different conversation. But those days are over and they should 100% keep it at a 12-team format. But yeah, the Big Ten is the best conference in college football. I wholeheartedly admit it. I'm not going to sit here and say otherwise. They are.
Yeah, and I agree with that because they have the right to be named as the best conference in college football right now. I mean, the last 3 years, you look at the last three previous winners, Michigan won it all, Ohio State won it all, Indiana just won it all
Yep.
play in the Big Ten conference. So you got the latest three world champions in college football there. And the
Yep.
SEC, and I'm a Florida Gators fan too, Joey. I'm a Florida Gators fan too. Basketball, we can have some bragging rights right now, but football, it's been a long way back to the top. But the
Yeah.
SEC, like there's been no teams in the national championship since 2022. So I think to your point too, it's a more even playing field with the NIL deals. These college kids, if they don't like it, the transfer portal is always open. So that makes things
Yes.
even more interesting. A lot of people might complain about it, but it makes it more interesting and an even playing field for talent to be showcased and earn millions of dollars. So I think the trend of the NIL deals, the transfer portals, all these things, they're not going to change anytime soon. And I agree with you. We should remain a 12-team format. I think 12 teams is good enough. I don't think if you extend it to 14 or 16, you're going to have some teams that's going to be blown out, and then you get some unnecessary games. But I think they should stick with a 12-team format and rather than a 14 format because it gives more teams an opportunity to pull off some upsets, more conferences to be represented other than the SEC. And right now, I gotta agree with you that the Big Ten championship is the best conference in college football.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The Big Ten is the best conference this past season. We have them in basketball, but I don't like. I know I've been a big SEC guy all these years, but you know what? Now with the new landscape, with the new format, it's completely changed. It's completely shifted. It gives everyone an equal opportunity to pay. Like now, of course, you saw Sorsby go to Texas Tech, Bryce Underwood, Michigan being paid. Now the whole situation if Darian Menza is going to be going to Miami next year, but this is the landscape. This is how it is until they put a cap on this, until they figure out how they want to figure this out. Nothing's going to change. So it definitely gives players an equal opportunity, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year. I don't think Indiana will win the national championship next year. I know they're getting Josh Hoover from TCU. Ohio State's the favorite. I think I saw this morning they came out with that. LSU will be up there for sure. Oregon will be up there with Dante Moore coming back next year since he didn't declare for the draft.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting for sure. Georgia's not going to be going anywhere. So I'm definitely looking forward to next year.
yeah, that's the only unfortunate part because we're in January. We got to be basically all the way to the end of
August.
August to get college
Yep.
football. But yeah, I definitely did enjoy this season, and I think all the drama with the Lane Kiffin scenario and the
Yep.
transfer portal, I think it's going to be one heck of a year next year in college football. But yeah, Joey, I had a fun time with you on the podcast tonight. Again, Joey is the
Yeah.
host of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. So, Joey, where can we find this podcast on all different platforms that you have?
Yes, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. That's streaming. So yeah, Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That's where you can find me. Then you can find me on TikTok and Instagram as well. So thank you again, Thomas, for having me. I had a blast. It was a pleasure breaking all the games down with you. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do this more often. But
Likewise, yeah.
yeah, for now, we'll go ahead and sign off for the night. This is your host Thomas Tyree on the Hot Podcast, and the host on the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast, Joey Monroe, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.